finding out about other genres, learning about Vinnie Colaiuta, and then to hear that he was working with Sting.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get every record that he was on. So, at the time he was doing like John Patitucci. And John Patitucci was a part of the Chick Corea Electric Band, if I'm not mistaken. So when Chick Corea had those bands, like the Electric Band, each one of those guys, they would do solo projects and they would use the same musicians. They would use Weckl. Vinnie was on the record. And when I started reading the liner notes and seeing the credits, I just went and dug and tried to find whatever projects they played on. And I wanted to listen to it. Because I really just soaked it all up. And then I found out that Vinnie was playing with Sting, and I was like, man, this is like rock, kind of like, what would you consider Sting, like, genre-wise?
The
like
solo
alternative?
stuff? Yeah, I mean, The Police was the coolest thing ever because it was this blend of, like, reggae, ska, punk rock, and then Sting's voice is, it's just there's so many cool components. But his solo stuff is just, it's worldly kind of. I don't know how you would even put a genre title on Sting, but that's what made it exciting also. And Vinnie's the only drummer that would be perfect for that.
And then I started, getting some of the other VHS tapes, like Terry Bozzio, and then I would find out about Frank Zappa, which was so bizarre at the time for me to get my ears on that. Yeah. I got in a lot of trouble because I went to church trying to play those odd times. My mom, she was playing, or she's like, son, what are you doing? Because it wasn't gospel chops at the time. It was about playing pocket. Yeah. But I remember, finding out about the rock drummers, and Mitch Mitchell and John Bonham,
Mitch Mitchell, yes.
Mitch is one of my favorite drummers.
You know who's in Sunset today is Billy Cox from Band of Gypsies.
No way.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day.
Oh, shoot.
Yes.
Billy is a legend. Is he from Nashville?
He lives here, but he's in L.A. right now. We're in Nashville. If you haven't can't see, we're in Blackbird Studio doing other projects, but Daru lives here, so he was kind enough to come in. Kids, the hustle is real back in those days. He's renting VHS tapes, looking at Modern Drummer. You guys are spoiled. You get to go on YouTube, Instagram, find everything, all access one place. You had to do some serious work to
Man, he's talking about paying dues.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And transcribe everything. It wasn't no YouTube, so we had to listen and figure it out.
Yeah.
Transcribing. And I'm thankful that I came up there. It forced me to be creative, but when Chick Corea, the musicians that played on those albums, when they would do their solo projects, they would use some of the same drummers, Peter Erskine, Vinnie, Weckl, and basically I just learned how to figure out who was playing the drums without even reading the liner note.
Wow!
And so I noticed that Vinnie had his drums tuned a certain way, and the way he finessed and his touch. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I can walk in a room, I can hear this track, and I was like, okay, that's Vinnie. And 9 times out of 10 it was him because I was able to eventually train my ear to, figure out what made him have his sound. Erskine had a certain sound the way he tuned his drums. Peter, and then Weckl, and then I would find out about Steve Gadd, watching the Buddy Rich Memorial Series, and when I learned about Steve Gadd, that really cracked my head because I eventually found out that Steve Gadd was playing on all these Steely Dan, all these I don't know if he played on disco records, but he was a genre-bending drummer.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I knew as a teenager that I didn't want to just be a gospel drummer. And I really had to go, I went against the grain. But just being inspired by, cats like Steve Gadd, Omar Keem, seeing how they were able to not only play jazz, they can play funk, they can play Caribbean, the Latin, they can play all that. And I knew that that's something that I want to do.
Did you have somebody in your life that was kind of mentoring you or pushing you or giving you motivation where, what young kids today, back then, forever, what am I going to do in my life when I get older? And you're playing an instrument, being a musician, which is one of the toughest things to even make money at any level. Who's motivating you? Is it yourself? Where'd the drive come from to just keep doing this? And eventually, even I've played instruments. I'm like, no, this ain't going to do much.
That's a good question. I had a lot of great mentors and men in my life, that really helped me along the way. My dad, he's a musician. My grandfather, rest in peace, he was a founder and pastor at one time of the church that I grew up in. 2 of my uncles played drums. What I'm saying? And they're preachers. Just watching them, I always tell people it's 2 things you can learn from somebody. You can learn what to do and what not to do. Wow. So at the time, you have to just learn from hard knocks. It was a little bit of mentoring, but a lot of times, how I came up, I had to just learn the hard way.